guys, we are back here today in the PwC studios receiving Simcha, that is the CEO from AgroScout. Simcha is going to tell us about their plans in Latin America and especially Brazil. And Simcha, I would like to start by bringing your self-presentation, your background, and telling us how did you establish a relationship with the agribusiness sector and decided to create this amazing startup.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here again in Brazil, in Sao Paulo. I grew up in agriculture next to a lot of citrus trees, and my father was actually working in the research center in Israel all the years. But I actually went to defense, and I spent more than 20 years in the Israeli Defense Forces, and I did a lot of work in technology and remote sensing and data collection and using remote sensing and artificial intelligence to find things that we need and then to make sense out of it to the people that need it in the field. And 6 years ago, when I finished the service, I wanted to take all of this to agriculture. Mm-hmm. Agriculture, for some reason, is further back in technology than defense. But at this time, we actually need to accelerate agriculture because we have more people on the globe and we want less farmers to grow more per hectare than ever before to feed the world. I wanted to impact something at that scale, global food security. So that's how I got to agriculture.
Perfect. And how big is AgroScout in Israel today, and which solutions accelerated your growth there?
So Israel is a small country. We make a lot of noise, but it is actually very small. But we have great technology, startup nation, and we have great innovation, and we have great agriculture. We have great farming and farming research and agronomists, and combining all of that, we're bringing that technology to the world. So AgroScout in Israel, we're about 30 people, mainly R&D and agronomy people, trying to embed agronomy and farming into technology. But AgroScout actually is a SaaS solution, a software as a service solution, which is accessible anywhere in the world. We commercially work now in more than 20 countries around the world. We don't need to be present there. Mm-hmm. Most of our users and clients, we've never physically been there. And Brazil, I'd say, is our main market outside of Israel because here you have gigantic agriculture.
And can you give us more information about your solutions? What AgroScout does?
Yes, so basically AgroScout is doing business intelligence for agriculture. We look at everything that's happening in the field from planting to harvest. So we're not the tractor, we're not the farm management tool, we're looking at what's happening in the field. We're looking at the field like at the plant level. Today, when a scout or an agronomist goes to the field, they might see a small part of the field. When we fly drones, robotics, so we use satellites or other sensors that we can get the data and use artificial intelligence to look at that, we can now start to bring insights at the plant level and enable treatment almost at the plant level. So it's a software solution, it's a SaaS solution that's enabling the users to collect data, mainly with small commercial drones. We work with DJI globally and also here in Brazil. And it's become very common, even in agriculture, and more farms are adapting the use of drones. We make those drones into super data collection for agriculture.
And do you believe, Simcha, that AI and the drones are going to lead the next agriculture revolution, and why?
We are already in the next agricultural revolution because of that pressure. The pressure on our farmers to grow more per hectare and do it in a more sustainable way, the only way that they can do that is through technology, because we're asking them to use less chemicals but grow more. It's only through bringing precision agriculture to the extreme. Robotics and artificial intelligence are all around us, and they're changing everything in our lives. But in agriculture, it'll be a tremendous change. And using the drones and artificial intelligence is already giving us insights like never before and enabling the farmers and the farms to make earlier and better decisions on the treatment. But in disrupting the way that they're looking at farming now, because today we look at farming, we look at the whole field. It might be 100 hectares. It might be even more. The scout goes out, he makes a decision on the whole field. Regardless, he doesn't see the whole field, but collecting data with robots and using artificial intelligence, computers are stupid. They don't think better than us. But if we can train them and we train them to do simple things, to detect simple things on a plant, they can do it 1,000,000 times. And they can help us make better decisions.
And what kind of results do you already had on these many farms that you work with?
So we already work on tremendous amounts of hectares around the world in different crops. We started in potatoes, so we have the most data in potatoes, but we also do corn, and now we're starting soy, and we just launched our service in sugarcane here in Brazil. And the more data we collect, the more insights that we bring. It depends a bit on the farm and the farmer himself and what crop he's growing, but we've seen reduction of inputs, and we look at all of the inputs: irrigation, fertilizer, plant protection, weeds, and other issues of when to harvest. When is the tomato ripe enough to be picked? These are decisions that the farmers are making, and we already bring that kind of value of reducing 5–10% of inputs and increasing the yield in each hectare.
And what tools do you use to convince the farmers to apply technology and adopt it?
What I like about Brazil, and I saw it again at the Agri Show this week, is that there's a tremendous openness and thrive in the Brazilian market to increase agriculture. They understand already that they need technology. Now I just need to convince them why and how this is helping them. Usually we'll talk about the ROI, just the return on investment. Okay, any reduction of inputs is an easy reduction for the farm. We usually work with corporates that are working with the farms, not necessarily directly with the farmer. They might be the user, not necessarily the client. But we work with the farmers and the agronomists, and they see right away the results. They see that we're detecting things that otherwise they wouldn't detect. And if we do early detection of things, then they can treat better, and they see the ROI right away. But the second value on top of that is how we're measuring the effect of the climate and the carbon of agriculture. What is the carbon footprint of a ton of potatoes or a ton of sugarcane? It depends on the inputs and how much you're growing per hectare. Yes. Starting to measure those things are more and more important for the processors that are looking at a lot of hectares and under the threshold to reduce net zero of carbon and sustainability.
And how do you feel like the Brazilian farmers, they are interacting with the subject of the sustainability? Can you compare with other parts of the world?
Even just from the Agri Show, the amount of drones and spraying drones that were there at multiple booths, you see there's more and more adoption of that. I don't know to compare to the rest of the world, but I know in the 20 countries that we do work, and we work in some of the major agro countries in the world, I think the Brazilian market is one of the most open to new technologies, the most understanding how this technology will bring efficiency and more productivity to the hectare or to the farm.
And can you tell us more about your operation here in Brazil? You already are a member of AgTech Garage community.
Yes.
When did it start, and in what point are you guys now?
Yes, so I wasn't even thinking about Brazil, forgive me, because for an Israeli startup, we're trained to think that we need to go to the US market. Now I can say that I think for an AgTech company, the Brazilian market is actually a better market for us. In 21, we were here with the program Scale Up Brazil, which is done with the Brazilian government, the Israeli government, and the Chamber of Commerce here in Brazil that brings Israeli startups to Brazil. So we had a program during COVID, it was on Zoom, we didn't even get to come here to understand a bit about the Brazilian market. And since then, we've opened our company here in Brazil in the beginning of 22, and we already have some people working here. So we are local, everything is in Portuguese, and the people even talk Portuguese in the company. And it's the only country outside of Israel that we actually have a presence, a company. And that will continue to grow. We sit at AgTech Garage as well because we want to be part of a community, and we want to meet the the big ag companies, and we want to meet the challenges that the agriculture in Brazil has.
And what are your focus here, and what are your plans to expand the operation here in Brazil?
So we don't grow sugarcane or soy in Israel, and those are two major crops globally, and especially here in Brazil. So those are two big crops that we'll be doing more and more in this coming year. But we want to spread across Brazil to work with as many corporate enterprises, agro-businesses, and farmers across the country.
How about Latin America? Do you have plans to
Yes,
expand?
we do have a team in Mexico because of the Spanish, not Portuguese.
Okay.
And they actually support all of Latin America. We do have clients and users across another 8 countries besides Brazil and Latin America. But again, Brazil is at size much bigger potential for us. But we do work across all of Latin America.
And Simcha, what impressed you most during this visit to Brazil?
The people, the agriculture, the agro show it's out of this world. I've been to things like that around the world. Here it's just bigger. and it was amazing. Also the people. Meeting the farmers, meeting the companies in agriculture, meeting the companies at AgTech Garage, meeting the partners that we could work with, and just the people here in Brazil. It's just fun to be here. There's many things that are similar between the Israeli culture and the Brazilian culture. There's some differences in language and other things, but there's many things that bring us together. A passion to agriculture, a passion to technology, a passion to doing these things, and the openness to do this also with people not from Brazil, not necessarily the thing that you see when I go to other countries.
And can you give us some spoiler of what we can expect from AgroScout in the next few months or years?
Of course, we will have more people here in Brazil. We'll be doing more of the crops that you know here, like I mentioned soy and sugarcane, but we'll also be doing, we also started corn as well, also looking at citrus, but pretty much we want to bring the service to all the crops that are in Brazil. And we're doing new partnerships with DJI, with the new Mavic 3 multispectral drone, which is an amazing drone for agriculture, for collecting the data. Together with AgroScout, it brings that to the extreme of the value that we can bring to every plant, every hectare, every farmer in Brazil.
Are you looking for partnerships with other startups, maybe?
We are looking for partnerships with corporates, with startups, with anyone that can help us in bringing our solution and our value to every hectare in Brazil. And we're looking for good people to work in AgroScout. As we grow in AgroScout, we're looking for software engineers and field technicians, agronomists, to have a larger team here in Brazil.
Thank you for the final message. It was a pleasure to have you here, and I hope you come back soon.
I will be back in June.